Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Stand-Up, and today I'm going to show basically where I'm at with the notification handling in my services. You can see all the services basically up and running right now. Um, so I'll show you basically where I'm adding this into the front end. So this is bare bones front end. Um, it's going to go down here on the bottom left, if you can see that where it says notifications. There'll be a little box above that that's actually going to show real-time communications or notifications based on what's being sent up to um, RabbitMQ and then back down to my backend, and then I'm using SignalR to establish the WebSocket connection, which you can see on the right is some of the connection information, and that's pretty much where I actually have left off right now, because if you go to my .NET backend, you can see that I'm actually running into an object reference error, and it's something to do with how I'm sending the message like this. So I have to change, obviously I don't want to instantiate that inside the consume method, but for testing I just want to see how I can establish a connection. So I might have to, it's almost like I'm going to have to pass this connection into this consume method, but I don't know if I'll be able to use like dependency injection or anything like that to do that for me. I'm not sure, but that's literally where I left off tonight. So, but to kind of get a feel for what's happening, so if I go back and then I refresh this page, I basically have some code that sends a whole bunch of messages up to my Rust microservice. Here you can see that it sends a bunch of engine data. One of them is temperatures. You can see that eventually, after a certain threshold, this notification is then sent up to another RabbitMQ queue, and then that ultimately makes its way down here into my notifications consumer on my on the .NET backend, and then that's supposed to publish a message to this message notifications hub, which then sends a notification or a message basically to notifications received, and then that'll basically get down to the front end um, and then display it on the DOM. So I feel like it sounds like a lot more than what it is, to be honest. I just have to write this out, but you can kind of get a feel for what I'm doing, right? So I'm using SignalR. This is the first time I've ever used SignalR, or really like explicitly WebSocket technology. So basically, I'm firing a ton of requests, and I'm sending a bunch of messages up to my RabbitMQ. It's then being processed by my Rust microservice. Depending on what happens with the data, I'm sending a message to another RabbitMQ queue. I'm calling it notifications queue, and my .NET has a register consumer for that queue. So my .NET side will consume whatever message is published there. Once it sees that, it needs a way to notify the front end to say, hey, we have a notification, let's display it. Now, obviously, you don't want to create like a naive, like polling, strategy to do this, right? Like basically, like have the front end like keep checking if the back end has any notifications, because that's not real time. So we want a real time, so we got to use something like WebSockets to basically establish a connection between the two. So once one gets a notification, it's instantly propagated down to whatever the other connecting point is. So that's what we're doing. So that's what we're connecting. So as soon as that notification gets to the .NET backend, theoretically it's going to display in real time right down to the front end without having to explicitly ask, does the .NET backend have any notifications? So does that make sense? Hopefully. But we're getting close. We're getting close. So once I actually get some more stuff wired up on the .NET backend, we should be in a better spot. So I've been following along a couple tutorials, a couple Other YouTube videos, I think I've gotten my middleware, I think, in the correct state, but I'm just seems to be having problems with this code here. But again, SignalR is new to me. I've never actually used it before, so I'm excited to learn this technology, and I can see how already it's super useful. So if this works out well for notifications, I might explore using it more in depth, to be honest, because right now, just an immediate bottleneck that I kind of foresee is the amount of messages that we're going to be sending from the front end to the back end and then up to RabbitMQ. Ideally, I like to cut out the route to the back end explicitly, and I like to potentially see if I can create a connection from maybe the front end to right to RabbitMQ. I don't know, or we'll see. I'll see what it can handle. Because I'm shooting for. It's gonna be about. What did I say? It's gonna be. I think it's going to be about like 60. I like to send about 60 messages a second. So I like to be in about 4 to 5,000 messages every minute. Basically corresponding to rotations per minute, right? It's going to hover around 4 to 5 to 6,000 RPM. I know my consuming services can handle that, but I think I might explore some different strategies on the front end just because of how many messages we're going to be sending. So if this works out using SignalR for this, I might explore using WebSockets to help me solve that problem. Because I already have the queues set up. It's not the queues that are the problem. It's getting the data from the front end to that queue. So we'll see what works out best. I have a couple different solutions, right? I'm gonna build out just the routing from the back end and then send a message to the queue first. See how that performs with 5,000 messages a minute. If that does well, then I might leave it like that for now. But if I'm noticing a lot of lag or if I'm noticing just a lot of latency, I might explore connecting my RabbitMQ right to my front end, and then see how that does. The reason I wasn't trying to couple my front end explicitly to services like that, right? Like I want to keep it all. You know what I mean? I'm trying not to add a dependency on my front end to like the queue itself. I'm trying to just have that specifically for the back end, meaning I want my front end to basically only have to worry about, is the back end available? If it is, we're good. Does that make sense? It's more of a design, I feel like, decision, but that might cause me some issues if I stick too close to that. Other option would be is if I could maybe create a WebSocket connection from my front end to back end. That way I don't have to actually like send a HTTP request. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Or not HTTP, but like, well, so I'm kind of thinking as I say this, like, so I really have three options. But I think I'm gonna stick with what I'm doing first and just see. So hopefully all that makes sense. But where that puts us at in terms of planning is that I'm actually going to move this. Hold on. I'm actually going to move this Rust microservice, I think, over to done because we've basically accomplished what I need my prototype to be. It checks the data and it sends a message back to another queue based off how we're parsing the data. So I'm going to go ahead and move that to done. So let's get in there, take it to done. And what we are currently working on is actually this one here. We're adding a consumer to consume the notifications queue messages. So a couple things that I probably left out is using SignalR. So I'm going to actually create some notes to capture that decision we made. So SignalR to real-time displaying of notifications. That's fine. Okay. I don't think there's any other information that I need here, so I think that that's good. I'll save that. So we'll remove that one to in progress. And what do I have that as? I have that as a 5 point. I think that's good. We can leave it as that. So the done when, we can display notifications on the front end. Perfect. That's all we need to do. So that's my in progress. So honestly, I should have moved that to in progress like 2 days ago. It's really when I started working on this. So, but it's fine. What are to do things? API gate. Okay, I have to do that. Create API functions to call backend. I'm not sure what I implement engines. Okay. We might need to have a kind of a specific meeting where I actually go through some of these. I think some of these might have changed since based on some decisions that we've made now. But we'll see. I'm trying to think what else did I do that I need to explicitly capture. I don't want to lose. Okay, I know what I'm going to add another research ticket to actually capture the 3 possibilities that we just discussed in terms of the potential bottleneck for the front end, sending all the messages to the back end. Front end, back end, communication strategies for handling engine. Okay. That should be good. And then, so the what here is research these 3 possibilities. So just typical API request response like we're doing now. Another is front end to RabbitMQ communication directly. And then the last one is WebSockets. So I think that's good for now. And then the why behind that is, we don't know this for sure, but there may be a bottleneck on the front end to back end communication when sending I'll just put 4,000 requests a minute. Okay, that's good. And then the done when is going to be important here actually, because we want to choose which strategy to use. So this is actually an important ticket because this will change a few things for sure, and it'll heavily influence what our architecture diagram is going to look like. So I'm going to put this at a 5 at least. Honestly, each of these could be its own ticket, but I'm going to leave it contained just to help me organize things. I don't want to make too many tickets for myself. So I have that as a 5. I think that's good. The to-do is definitely, I'll definitely need to kind of go through the to-do and see, kind of get a feel for where we're at, because you can see one ticket that's like lingering, and it's the engine API. And to be honest, like, it's not being used right now. I had planned to use it in the future for very specific things, like um, for handling like retrieval of other people's engines that they make and put on the system and things like that. But for this prototype, we're not actually using the engines API, so I don't want to make it seem like that's a part of this current whatever. But it's I think I tell you what, I'm gonna move this to planning. Um, the API gateway, I think we can leave as to do. So the API gateway is really going to be used for um, the back end's communicate. Like so, the front end is part of the back end with a back end for front end solution, right? So if I have to make a request to another API, um, that's ideally I'm going to route that through my API gateway. So I still have to wire up everything through the API gateway. I just haven't done that yet. And I don't, to be honest with you, I don't see myself doing that for a while until I get kind of this full loop of functionality in place and just the general design of the system. Um, so I don't want to like kind of crowd my to-do column here. So I am gonna move that back into planning. Now, I don't want to lose sight of that. Like it's an important task for sure. Um, database correct connection string in my what was that one for? I think I started working on the migrations for sure for the engine model. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to do for sure. Um, and you can kind of see like we've done a lot though. I mean, done. This was the kickoff story. I mean, when did we do that? I don't know if we can see history on that. Okay, yeah, November 13th, and it's what March 25th. So I feel like we're making decent progress on this. I mean, for like an hour a day roughly on this, right? Um, we have project planning. We've gotten a lot of prototyping done. A lot of the work I feel like I did prior to even the kickoff meeting, so a lot of it wasn't captured. But we've done prototyping, queue designs, load testing, back-end architectures. We've done a lot. So I think we're in good shape here. But yeah, I'm getting very close to having a full, at least demo of this notifications handling of the engine. So I'm excited for just to show like one feature, and I'm also excited to show like um, the general system design of the whole thing because I think it uses a lot of key technologies that a lot of places use, and that you'll pretty much find like a lot of places you'll go because they're very robust and they just work well. But I find that sometimes it's hard to find like information about system design in a way that's like makes sense for real world applications. Like I know you can look up like diagrams and stuff, but it's hard to take sometimes a diagram of just that's kind of abstract and then apply that to like a problem. You know what I mean? Like I'm hoping that with this project, right, that it's not so much about the project in a sense as it so much as like I want this to be a helpful resource for people to hopefully learn languages and system design, problem solving, troubleshooting, everything that kind of goes into all this stuff because this is really the bulk of like a software job is just figuring out what works and what doesn't and how do systems talk to each other. And sometimes that's hard to find resources on. So I'm going to diagram this the best I can because this is really applicable, right? Like uh, if you were to get a feature or something that you need to add in notification handling, my hope is that after this kind of engineering experience that we're doing here, you'll hopefully be able to have a few things that you could think of as solutions now. Like, hey, maybe we can use SignalR. Maybe we can use RabbitMQ and set up another queue. Maybe we can use Rust. Something that maybe, I'm open to think outside the box. I think that that's Especially that was my goal with incorporating Rust. Do I need to? No, but I just want to hopefully broaden my own horizons in terms of software engineering, but hopefully uh, create this channel as in this playlist and hopefully use it as a way to maybe help other people out. I don't know. But anyway, so this is where we're at. I think we got a lot of work. So, but we're making good progress, so I'm excited. All right, guys. Well, I think I'll see you all tomorrow.